All right, I got cut off in the other reading, so I'm going to start this one at chapter 19 again. And this time I know that it's I and not the Roman numeral 1. Chapter 19, The Inadvertent I. He sat in front of the machine. It was different from Flora's mother's typewriter. There was a blank screen instead of paper, and the whole contraption glowed, emitting a warm but not entirely friendly smell. The keyboard was familiar, though. Each of the letters was there, each of them in the same place. Flora and Tooty stood behind him, and William Spifer, the boy with the dark glasses, stood behind him too. This was an important moment. Ulysses understood very well. Everything depended on him typing something. He had to do it for Flora. His whiskers trembled. He could feel them trembling. He could see them trembling. What could he do? He turned and sniffed his tail. There was nothing he could do except to be himself, to try to make the letters on the keyboard speak the truth of his heart, to work to make them reveal the essence of the squirrel he was. But what was the truth? And what kind of squirrel was he? He looked around the room. There was a tall window, and outside the window was the green, green world and the blue sky. Inside, there were shelves and shelves of books, and on the wall above the keyboard was a picture of a man and woman floating over a city. They were suspended in a golden light. The man was holding the woman, and she had one arm flung out in front of her as if pointing the way home. Ulysses liked the woman's face. She reminded him of Flora. Looking at the painting made the squirrel feel warm inside, certain of something. Whoever had painted the picture loved the floating man and floating woman. He loved the city they floated above. He loved the golden light, just as Ulysses loved the green world outside, and the blue sky, and Flora's round head. His whiskers stopped trembling. "What's happening?" asked William Spifer. "Nothing," said Flora. "He's gone into some kind of trance," said Tooty. "Shh," said Flora. Ulysses inched closer to the keyboard. It was beautiful to the squirrel to see a letter appear out of nowhere. "Well, what is it? What's the letter?" "It's an I, William Spifer." "But that proves nothing. Of course anyone can inadvertently hit an I. You don't have to be a superhero to type an I. Would you please hush up, William?" The squirrel typed. The people waited. Destiny bestirred itself. What do you think that Ulysses, I'll try to get it in a good grief, is typing? You probably can see the page. I was trying to close it. Chapter 20. When it said, "I love your round head, the brilliant green, the watching blue, these letters, this world, you. I am very, very hungry." Chapter 21. Poetry. They were sitting in Tooty's office. Tooty was on the couch with a package of frozen peas on her head. She had fainted. Unfortunately, she had hit her head on the edge of the desk on the way down. Fortunately, Flora had remembered an issue of Terrible Things Can Happen to You, advising that a bag of frozen peas made an excellent cold compress to provide comfort and reduce swelling. "Read it one more time," said William Spifer to Flora. Flora read Ulysses' words aloud again. "The squirrel wrote poetry," said Tooty in a voice filled with wonder. "Keep those peas on your head," said Flora. "I don't get the last part," said William Spifer. "The part about hunger. What does that mean?" Flora turned away from the computer and looked at William Spifer's dark glasses and saw again her round-headed, pajamaed self-reflection there. "It means he's hungry," she said. "He hasn't had any breakfast." "Oh," said William Spifer, "I see. It's literal." Ulysses was sitting on his hind legs beside the computer. He nodded hopefully. "It's poetry," said Tooty from the couch. Ulysses puffed out his chest the tiniest bit. "Well, it might be poetry," said William Spifer, "but it's not great poetry. It's not even good poetry." "But what does this all mean?" said Tooty. Why does it have to mean something?" said William Spifer. "The universe is a random place." "Oh, for heaven's sakes, William," said Tooty. Flora felt something well up inside of her. What was it? Pride in the squirrel? Annoyance with William Spifer? Wonder? Hope? Suddenly she remembered the words had appeared over Alfred T. Slipner's head when he was submerged in the vat of incandesto. "Do you doubt him? Do not." Do you doubt him? Said Flora. Of course I doubt him, said William Spifer. Do not, said Flora. Why? Said William Spifer. She stared at him. Take off your glasses, she said. I want to see your eyes. No, said William Spifer. Take them off. I won't. Children, said Tooty, please. Who was William Spifer really? Yes, he was the great-nephew of Tooty Tickman, suddenly, suspiciously, come to stay the summer. But who was he really? What if he was some kind of comic book character himself? What if he was a villain whose powers were depleted as soon as the light of the world hit his eyes? Incandesto was forever being attacked by his arch-nemesis, the darkness of 10,000 hands. Every superhero had an arch-nemesis. What if Ulysses' arch-nemesis was William Spifer? The truth must be known, said Flora. She stepped forward. She reached out her hand to remove William Spifer's glasses. And then she heard her name. Flora Belle, your father's here. Flora Belle, said William Spifer in a gentle voice. Ulysses was still sitting on his hind legs. His ears were pricked. He looked back and forth between Flora and William Spifer. We have to go, said Flora. Wait, said William Spifer. Flora picked Ulysses up by the scruff of his neck. She put him under her pajama top. Will I ever see you again? Said William Spifer. The universe is a random place, William Spifer, said Flora. Who can say whether or not we will meet again? I almost showed you, but there's no picture. Chapter 22, A Giant Ear. Her father was standing on the top step in front of the open door. He was wearing a dark suit and a tie and a hat with a brim, and even though it was Saturday and summertime, Flora's Belle was an accountant at the firm Flinton, Floston, and Frick. Flora wasn't sure, but she thought it was possible that her father was the world's loneliest man. He didn't even have Incandesto and Dolores to keep him company anymore. Hi, Pop, she said. Flora, said her father. He smiled at her, and then he sighed. I'm not ready yet. Oh, that's okay, said her father. He sighed again. I'll wait. He walked with Flora into the living room. He sat down on the couch and took off his hat and balanced it on his knee. Are you in the house now, George? Flora's mother shouted from the kitchen. Is Flora with you? I am inside, shouted Flora's father. Flora is with me. The clack, clack, clack of the typewriter echoed through the house. Silverware rattled, and then there was silence. What are you doing, George? Her mother shouted. I'm sitting on the couch, Phyllis. I am waiting for my daughter. Flora's father moved his hat from his left knee to his right knee, then back to his left knee again. Ulysses shifted underneath Flora's pajamas. What are you two going to do today? Flora's mother shouted. I don't know, Phyllis. I can hear you perfectly well, George, said Flora's mother as she came into the living room. You don't need to show. Flora, what have you under your pajama top? Nothing, said Flora. Is it that squirrel? No, said Flora. What squirrel? Said Flora's father. Don't lie to me, said her mother. Okay, said Flora. It's the squirrel. I'm keeping him. I knew it. I knew you were hiding something. Listen to me. That squirrel is diseased. You are engaging in dangerous behavior. Flora turned away. She had a superhero under her pajamas. She didn't have to listen to her mother, or anybody for that matter. A new day was dawning, and a girl with a superhero kind of day. I'm going to change now, said Flora. This will not work, Flora Belle, said her mother. That squirrel is not staying. What squirrel? Her father said again. Flora went halfway up the stairs, and when he stopped, he stood on the landing. The criminal element suggests that anyone truly invested in fighting crime is besting criminals should learn to listen carefully. All words at all times, true or false, whispered or shouted, are clues to the workings of the human heart. Listen, you must, if you care to understand anything at all, become a giant ear. This is what the criminal element suggested, and this is what Flora intended to do. She pulled Ulysses out from underneath her pajama top. Sit on my shoulder, she whispered to him. Ulysses climbed up on her shoulder. Listen, she said. He nodded. Flora felt brave and capable, standing there on the landing with her squirrel on her shoulder. Do not hope, she whispered. Instead, observe. She took a deep breath and let it out slowly. She held herself absolutely still. She became a giant ear. And what Flora and the giant ear heard was astonishing. Chapter 23. Enter the Villain. George, said Flora's mother, we have a problem. Your daughter has become emotionally attached to a diseased squirrel. How's that, said Flora's father. There's a squirrel, said her mother, speaking more slowly now, as if she were pointing at each word as she said it. There's a squirrel, repeated her father. The squirrel is not well. There's an unwell squirrel. There's a sack in the garage and a shovel. Okay, said Flora's father. There's a sack and the shovel in the garage. At this point, there was a very long silence. I need you to put the squirrel out of its misery, said Flora's mother. How's that, said her father. For the love of Pete, George, shouted her mother. Put the squirrel in the sack and then hit him over the head with the shovel. Flora's father gasped. Flora gasped, too. She was surprised at herself. The ladies in her mother's romance novels put their hands on their hips and gasped. But Flora was not a gasper. She was a cynic. Flora's father said, I don't understand. Flora's mother cleared her throat. She uttered the blood-soaked words again. She said them louder. She said them more slowly. You put the squirrel in the sack, George. You hit the squirrel over the head with the shovel. She paused. And then, she said, you use the shovel to bury the squirrel. Put the squirrel in a sack? Hit the squirrel over the head with a shovel? Said Flora's father in a squeaky, despairing voice. Oh, Phyllis, no. Yes, said Flora's mother. It is the humane thing to do. Flora understood that she had made a mistake in thinking that William Spicer was anybody important. Everything was coming into sharp and terrifying focus. The story was starting to make sense. Ulysses was a superhero, probably. And Phyllis Buckman was his arch nemesis, definitely. Wholly unanticipated occurrences. Chapter 24. Stalked out, chased, threatened, poisoned, etc. He should have been shocked, but he wasn't. Not really. It was a sad fact in his existence as a squirrel that there was always someone somewhere who wanted him dead. In his short life, Ulysses had been stalked by cats, attacked by raccoons, and shot at with BB guns, slingshots, and a bow and arrow. Granted, the arrow was made of rubber, but still, it had hurt. He had been shouted at, threatened, and poisoned. He had been flung ears over tail by the stream of the water issuing from a garden hose turned on but to full force. Once, at the public picnic ground, a small girl had tried to beat him to death with her enormous teddy bear, and last fall a pickup truck had ran over his tail. Truthfully, the possibility of getting hit over the head with a shovel didn't seem that alarming. Life was dangerous, particularly if you were a squirrel. In any case, he wasn't thinking about dying. He was thinking about poetry. That is what Tootie said he had written. Poetry. He liked the word, its smallness, its density, the way it rose up at the end as if it had wings. Poetry. Don't worry, said Flora. You're a superhero. I don't like this word. This malfeasance will be stopped. Ulysses dug his claws into Flora's pajamas to keep his balance on her shoulder. Malfeasance. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to Google it to see how you say it the correct way. Said Flora again. Poetry, thought Ulysses. I'm almost at the end of my recording time. Let's see. And the next chapter is several pages long. So I'm going to stop this recording here, and I will be back.